Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, council members, city officials, and our streaming audience. I would like to welcome you to the November 14th City Council meeting. We have 9 items on our agenda this evening. We're meeting here in chambers, open for public attendance, and we're streaming live on YouTube. Moving forward, if you would, Ms. Moss, please continue with the roll call of the members.
Thank you, President Geringer. Anthony Phillips.
Here.
Payne.
Here.
Nickerson.
Here.
Farrow.
Here.
Henderson.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Preston.
Here.
Greg Phillips.
Here.
Prohl.
Here.
Thank you. At this time, would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you, everyone. The minutes of the previous meeting have been distributed for review. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes at this time? If not, do I have a motion to accept the minutes as they are?
President Geringer, I'd like to make a motion we accept the minutes as they are.
Motion from Ms. Henderson, seconded by Ms. Preston. Roll call on the motion to accept the minutes.
Prohl.
Yes.
Greg Phillips.
Yes.
Preston.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Henderson.
Yes.
Farrow.
Yes.
Nickerson.
Yes.
Payne.
Yes.
Anthony Phillips.
Yes.
The minutes have been accepted. We'll now move to reports of the committees, and we'll begin with Community Affairs Committee. Mr. Greg Phillips.
Thank you, President Geringer. Community Affairs has no items on the agenda this evening, and therefore nothing to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to Human Resource Committee. Ms. Payne.
Thank you, President Geringer. Human Resources, we do not have an item on the agenda this evening and nothing new to report on tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Payne. Moving to Development Committee. Ms. Nickerson.
Development has nothing on the agenda tonight, therefore we have nothing to report.
Thank you, Ms. Nickerson. Next to Finance Committee, Mr. Tony Phillips.
Thanks, President Geringer. Finance has one thing on the agenda tonight. It's number 4. It's a first reading. It's an ordinance appropriating $18,320 in insurance funds received as security as the result of a structure fire 268 South Hickory Street, Chiillicothe, Ohio, and declaring an emergency. That's all Finance has tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Moving now to our Parks and Recreation Committee with Ms. Henderson.
Thank you, President Geringer. Parks and Rec has 2 items on the agenda tonight. The first is item number 8, a resolution granting the use of Chiillicothe Park in the surrounding downtown streets for the Rudolph Run 5K on Wednesday, December 7th, 2022, and declaring an emergency. And item number 9 is also first reading on resolution granting the use of Chiillicothe Park and certain surrounding downtown streets to the Shine on Chiillicothe group for its Light Up the Park for the holiday season event on Friday, November 18th, and declaring an emergency. And I believe we may be asking to waive the 3 reads on one, if not both of those. And then we did have a committee meeting this evening. We received a request to apply for a grant to help fund the splash pad. And the committee felt that there may be better options out there for grants to help with the funding. So we decided not to approve that. And I believe that is all we have for tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Henderson. Next up is the Safety Service Committee. Ms. Preston.
Thank you, President Geringer. We have 5 items on the agenda this evening. The first item is 19-093. It's a third reading of an ordinance amending 505.14 of the codified ordinances of the City of Chiillicothe as it pertains to livestock being kept or harbored within the corporation limits of the City of Chiillicothe. I do have a couple of amendments that I need to request on that item. Number 2 is a first reading, 22-120, an ordinance accepting and appropriating $11,449.84 received from Public Entity Risk Services of Ohio for weather-related damage due municipal court equipment and declaring an emergency. Number 3, first reading of an ordinance amending section 1709.02D weeds, 138.03 nuisance abatement definitions, and 138.06 notice of nuisance or repeat nuisance service of the codified ordinances of the city of Chiillicothe. And then number 5, first reading an ordinance allowing the Chiillicothe Municipal Court to increase the hours for 1 part-time deputy bailiff to allow the bailiff services for the remainder of 2022 and declaring an emergency. I'll also be asking to waive the 3 read. Back up to number 3. This is the first part of a 3-part provision we're doing to this. We're dealing with the grass first, then we'll deal with the trash part of the ordinance, and then the junk vehicles. This was at the request of the chief. He asked for us to investigate it. Number 6 is a first reading an ordinance extending the Chiillicothe Municipal Court Victim Witness Assistance Program, accepting grant monies revised through the Victim of Crime Act. We already accepted the grant. Now we're just allowing for the pay, and we'll request that to be declared emergency and waive the 3 read as well. We did have a committee meeting this evening to talk about the violence reduction grant. This was approved by my committee and will go to the law director's office for legislation and then hopefully be on the next council agenda. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Preston. Next up is the Engineering Committee as well as the City Services, both chaired by Mr. Farrow. Mr. Farrow?
Thank you. For engineering, I have nothing on the agenda and nothing new to report. For transit and city services, I do have item number 7, an ordinance accepting and appropriating $650,000 in funds awarded to the Chiillicothe Transit Raw Scope Program by South Central Ohio Job and Family Services and declaring an emergency. This was in excess of funds that we were awarded that we didn't originally ask for, so wanting to get those funds appropriated at the correct time, I would ask that we waive the 3 read rule so we can appropriate these funds and pay our providers. And that is all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Farrow. And finally, our Utilities Committee, Mr. Prohl.
Utilities does not have any items on tonight's agenda. However, we did meet earlier and we talked about the direction that we're going to take for the water rate review process. There will be a water rate review committee meeting tomorrow, and then they will put together some recommendations, and I should be able to present those next Monday. So I will be calling a utilities committee meeting for here in council chambers Monday, the 21st of November at 6:30 p.m. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Prohl. From there, we'll move to reports of our officials. Our mayor, Mr. Luke Feeney.
Thank you, President Geringer. I'll piggyback on Councilman Prohl's report just now. We have received bids on our wastewater treatment plant facility. Just a quick refresher, this summer council authorized us to apply to the Ohio EPA for a loan for that massive project. And then the process we laid out at that time was that once the bids came in, that we would come back, depending on the bids, present those back to council. There was a committee assignment request submitted at the same time asking to review those rates. And so the water rate review meeting, we call it water rate review, but it's actually an ordinance that reviews both water and sewer rates annually. That meeting and those rate increases have not happened over the past 2 years. It's something established in ordinance that they're to automatically go up every year upon the recommendation of the review committee and then approval by council. With the pandemic, we just have not, those past 2 years, did not submit those for increase. So this year's water rate review committee meeting is technically to review the just the standard, what is standard in ordinance of 2%. But through that, they will also get a chance to look at some of the recommendations that have come from the consultant which we hired to help us sort of plan out the potential increases. And so at that meeting next Monday, we will have for Councilman Prohl and the Utility Committee sort of the range of options based on the grants that have come in, the final bid price, interest rates, so on and so forth. And so the bids have come in. I think we have 110 days from the time the bids came in to award. And so we were kind of working around the EPA loan process and some other things. But we are on a relatively tight timeline. So appreciate council and Councilman Prohl's swiftness with that request. I want to mention the Appalachian Community Grant process. It was rolled out, sort of announced by the governor this summer, maybe even in the spring, and they spent a lot of the summer sort of preparing the guidelines for this process. It's a $500 million allocation or award that will go to the some 32, I think, Appalachian counties. And within the last couple of weeks, they announced the process to apply for that award. It's been confusing, but essentially there's 3 buckets. They are looking for applications in infrastructure, workforce, and healthcare. And they're really encouraging cross-county, cross-community, cross-region applications, which is the part that's been confusing for a lot of us. Mostly or largely, this process is being led by the regional development commissions, trying to aggregate people and put together potential applications. The way the application or the money is broken up, though, is that the state has allocated the first $30 million to go towards what they're calling planning money. And so what they've done is they've allocated approximately exactly $250,000 per county for counties or cross-county applications to go in to basically spend the next year planning or preparing to plan communities to be ready to apply for the bulk of the money, which will be available in an application process next fall. So basically the $450 million is what's up for grabs next fall. And there's a $30 million allocation, I think, for what they're calling shovel-ready projects, which essentially means you've got the engineering architecture all done. We haven't internally in the city come up with a project where we have all of those things done and it fits the buckets that they've identified. And so what we're working through is trying to work with the Regional Development Commission, the commissioners, local economic development, and trying to think through how to get a planning application in, which we can cast as something that's pretty broad. But I wanted to put that out there. The application deadline for all communities is December 9th, and we will be getting at least a application in, if not multiple applications. How it's all sorted out from there remains to be seen. Director John Carey from the Governor's Office of Appalachia has been very helpful. And they're really trying to guide communities towards what they're calling what's the word they use? Just really big projects. I'm drawing a blank on the word. Transformational is the word they're using. So things like workforce development centers, and bigger projects of that nature. If anybody has questions about that, suggestions, thoughts, wants to be a part of meetings, anything like that, please reach out to me directly. But as of right now, we're planning on being a part of at least a couple of applications. Between meetings, I wanted to announce that we have been awarded about $150,000 through the state for the demolition of a wastewater treatment plant that most people don't know exists. So if you're sort of, instead of going up the hill on Bellevue, if you were to sort of continue on Plyley's and go around kind of the backside of Bellevue towards Paint Street, essentially, we have a westerly wastewater treatment plant there. And it's abandoned, and we received some grant money to tear that building down and green that space. It's the potential connector space from the bike path on the Plyley's Lane side to connecting to Paint Street. And Director Long has put our matching money request in his 2023 operating budget. But that has been sitting abandoned for quite a few years. And so that's an exciting win. Just want to wish a belated Happy Veterans Day to all those who served, particularly this year in light of the celebrations of Joseph Hoffman and all that the community went through around the VA. I think it's a particularly important Veterans Day for this community. So thank you to those who served. And finally, some fun news, something that I don't get to announce very often, is former 6th Ward Councilwoman Pat Patrick has been working with our development department, secured some grant money for demolition of a property, 27 Wade Street in the 6th Ward. It's a property that former Councilwoman Patrick owned. And she would like to donate that property to the city to make it into the 6th Ward's first playground. So not often that we get to add parks or playgrounds. So that will be a incoming committee assignment request. And former Councilwoman Patrick has expressed her desire to be part of any committee meetings or present to council. And I want to thank her for that, her intention to contribute there. And with that, I'll conclude my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll now move to our auditor, Mrs. Spetnagel.
I do not have anything to add to the agenda today, but I just wanted to give you an update. We're still working on the budget. We're making progress. So as soon as we get that all consolidated, we will let you know. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Spetnagel. We'll now move to our law director, Ms. Villarreal.
Thank you. We don't have a formal report tonight. We would just like to mention that our legal community here has suffered a loss with the unexpected death of Judge Schmidt's father and now the death of Judge Street's mother. Our thoughts and prayers go out to our judges and their families, and we would ask for your patience as we work to reschedule cases surrounding their arrangements. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Villarreal. Moving on now to audience participation rule. Council Rule 22 does limit each speaker to 5-minute presentation and a total limitation of 15 minutes per any single subject. If you get to the point where you're getting close to 1 minute left, I'll try to indicate to you that you need to summarize your presentation. Anyone who wishes to speak, we do need for our records your name and address.
There. Hi, I'm John Thacker, 990 Columbus Street, apartment 307, Chiillicothe. I wanted to mention the neighborhood trolley. You didn't. I thought you were trying to be short, weren't you? The neighborhood trolley will be running Wednesday and also Friday of this week as a special way to draw in people to the downtown Christmas parade extravaganza, whatever you want to call it. It's running every Wednesday from 5 to 9 through, I think, 5 out of the 6 wards. So if anybody sees it, wave at us. I think you did one time. So please enjoy it. They extended it through the months of November and December. And also, they will be doing Christmas tree light tours, which I'm sure that would be enjoyable. If anybody has a chance, you can check on the details with Chiillicothe Transit. Second item would be, as for item number 3 on the agenda for this evening, I guess I would have to have maybe a better explanation of the ways in which it might change from what the current situation is to what it will be if this eventually passes. And whoever wants to describe that. I don't know anything about what the current situation is, so. Well, I assume it's to have, greater compliance with the, keeping things looking nice. if I may know where to find that. I didn't see it on mine, but I'll look for it, but I didn't see it, so I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, thank you. I'll look for it. Okay. The third item is that I may have gotten an unauthorized look into the armory, which I have not had a chance to do up to a couple of weekends ago when they left the door open. I think I'm incriminating myself, but I just took a quick peek to see what it looked like. It's beautiful, as perhaps everybody knows who's been in there. I assume at some point there's a plan to use that for some purpose other than storing the Christmas lights. No or yes? I don't know who wants to answer this one.
Parks and Rec Director Bill Bonner has some ideas of what he's hoping will happen in there. I don't know if you saw the basketball court that was upstairs.
I didn't go up. I didn't go too far because, I was breaking the law by doing this. So I wanted to at least minimize. I did actually ask another person to come in with me. So I guess I'm aiding and abetting too. Where's the police officer today, by the way? Let's see. How many different... anyway, nothing that's really a big felony.
Well, if you contact Bill Bonner, he'd be happy to give you an official tour.
See, if you had the Choose Chiillicothe thing there, I would have not had to do this back in the day. But nonetheless, I'm not blaming you. It was my fault. And that's all. Thank you. Do you want to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Thacker. We'll now move to old business. Are there any items in old business that we need to
President
bring?
Geringer,
Yes.
I would like to request an amendment to 505.14. It'd be item number 1 on the agenda. There's an amendment to the legislation. It's going to be in B3C, where the legislation read, no building, housing, livestock shall be built within 200 feet of any inhabited structure or within, it did read 100 feet, and that was amended to 150 feet of any property line. And then in H, it was changed to 1 large animal is allowed. It did say per acre of land for 5 acres, and it was amended to every 5 acres of land and above. Those are the 2 amendments that I'm requesting be made, a motion to be made to amend the legislation. Yes, we did.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes, I'm making the motion. I'd have to look back. We had a meeting on it.
Moved by Ms. Preston, seconded by Mr. Tony Phillips. The aforementioned amendments to item number 1, amending the section 50514. Roll call on the motion.
Anthony Phillips.
Yes.
Payne.
Yes.
Farrow.
No.
Henderson.
Yes.
Nickerson.
No.
Brown.
No.
Preston.
Yes.
Greg Phillips.
Yes.
Prohl.
No.
Motion to amend passes. Moving now to participation and correspondence received by the clerk. Ms. Moss?
Thank you, President Geringer. I have several pieces of correspondence to share today. The first is I received 2 emails from Mr. Jason Link. It was a summary of it is that he's opposing the ordinance, section 505.14, the livestock. He has concerns surrounding the legislation. He sent a letter sharing suggested changes. His main concern is for 4-H and FFA members, and he implores council to not approve the legislation. Next, I have received a liquor license request for 5D Investments LLC, doing business as Southern Ohio Axe Throwing, 35 North Paint Street, Chiillicothe, Ohio 45601. And then the last item I have is a liquor license request for Paper City Coffee LLC, doing business as Paper City Coffee, 47 South Paint Street, Chiillicothe, Ohio 45601.
Thank you, Ms. Moss. Moving now to new business. Any items in new business at this time to bring up? We will now move to our legislation. We have 9 items on our agenda this evening. Ms. Moss, whenever you're ready, we'll start with item number 1.
Thank you, President Geringer. Item number 1 is a third reading of an ordinance amending section 505.14 of the codified ordinances of the city of Chiillicothe as it pertains to livestock being kept or harbored within the corporation limits of the city of Chiillicothe, Ohio.
Roll call on the ordinance.
Anthony Phillips.
Yes.
Payne.
Yes.
Prohl.
No.
Greg Phillips.
Yes.
Preston.
Yes.
Brown.
No.
Farrow.
No.
Henderson.
Yes.
Nickerson.
No.
The ordinance passes. Item number 2.
Item number 2 is the first reading of an ordinance accepting and appropriating $11,449.84 received from Public Entity Risk Service of Ohio for weather-related damage to municipal court equipment and declaring an emergency.
President Geringer,
Yes, Ms.
I
Preston.
would like to make a motion to waive the 3-read rule at this time on this.
Motion by Ms. Preston, seconded by Ms. Payne. Roll call on the motion to waive the 3-read rule.
Henderson.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Preston.
Yes.
Greg Phillips.
Yes.
Prohl.
Yes.
Anthony Phillips.
Yes.
Payne.
Yes.
Nickerson.
Yes.
Farrow.
Yes.
Motion passes. Roll call on the ordinance.
Anthony Phillips.
Yes.
Greg Phillips.
Yes.
Preston.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Prohl.
Yes.
Henderson.
Yes.
Payne.
Yes.
Nickerson.
Yes.
Farrow.
Yes.
Ordinance passes. Item number 3.
Item number 3 is the first reading of an ordinance amending sections 1709.02D weeds, 138.03 nuisance abatement definitions, and 138.06 notice of nuisance or repeat nuisance service of the codified ordinances of the city of Chiillicothe.
That item will move to our next agenda. Item number 4.
Item number 4 is the first reading of an ordinance appropriating $18,320 in insurance funds received as security as the result of a structure fire at 268 South Hickory Street, Chiillicothe, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
That item will move to our next agenda. Item number 5.
Item number 5 is the first reading of an ordinance allowing the Chiillicothe Municipal Court to increase the hours for one part-time deputy bailiff to allow for the bailiff services for the remainder of 2022 and declaring an emergency.
President Geringer,
Yes, Ms.
at this
Preston.
time, I'd like to make a motion to waive the 3-read rule on this item.
Motion by Ms. Preston, seconded by Ms. Henderson. Roll call on the motion to waive the 3-read rule.
Anthony Phillips.
Yes.
Nickerson.
Yes.
Henderson.
Yes.
Preston.
Yes.
Prohl.
Yes.
Greg Phillips.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Farrow.
Yes.
Payne.
Yes.
Motion passes. Roll call on the ordinance.
Brown.
Yes.
Farrow.
Yes.
Payne.
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Prohl,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Henderson.
Yes.
The ordinance passes. Item number 6.
Item number 6 is an ordinance extending the Chiillicothe Municipal Court Victim Witness Assistance Program, accepting grant monies received through the Victims of Crime Act and the State Victims Assistance Act, setting up pay and benefits for the victim advocate position, and declaring an emergency.
President Geringer, I would like to make a motion to waive the read rule on this item.
Motion by Ms. Preston, seconded by Mr. Greg Phillips. Roll call on the motion to waive the 3 read rule.
Payne,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Prohl,
Yes.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Farrow,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Preston.
Yes.
Motion passes. Roll call on the ordinance.
Farrow,
Yes.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Prohl,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
The ordinance passes. Item number 7.
Item number 7 is the first reading of an ordinance accepting and appropriating $650,000 in funds awarded to the Chiillicothe Transit Ross Go program by South Central Ohio Job and Family Services, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Farrow.
President Geringer, I'd like to make a motion that we waive the 3 read rule so we can accept these funds and pay our providers.
Motion made by Ms. Farrow, seconded Mr. Farrow, seconded by Mrs. That is twice. Seconded by Ms. Payne. Roll call on the motion. It's that wedding dance picture.
Oh
Keeps
my
falling into
gosh.
my mind.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Farrow,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Prohl,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Motion passes. Roll call on the ordinance.
Payne,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Prohl,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Farrow,
Yes.
Henderson.
Yes.
Ordinance passes. Item number 8.
Item number 8 is the first reading of a resolution granting use of Yaktangi Park and the surrounding downtown streets for the Rudolph Run 5K on Wednesday, December 7th, 2022, and declaring an emergency.
Ms. Henderson.
President Carrier, at this time, I'd like to make a motion we waive the 3 read on this.
Motion by Ms. Henderson, seconded by Ms. Nickerson to waive the 3 read rule. Roll call on the motion.
Henderson,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Farrow,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Prohl,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Greg Phillips.
Yes.
Motion passes. Roll call on the resolution.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Prohl,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Farrow,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Preston.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Item number 9.
Item number 9 is the first reading of a resolution granting use of Yaktangi Park and certain surrounding downtown streets to the Shine On Chiillicothe Group for its Light Up the Park for the holiday season event on Friday, November 18th, 2022, and declaring an emergency.
President Geringer, at this time, I'd like to make a motion that we waive the 3 read on this item.
Motion by Ms. Henderson, seconded by Ms. Payne. Roll call on the motion to waive the 3 read rule.
Payne.
Yes.
Prohl.
Yes.
Greg Phillips.
C.
Preston.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Farrow.
Yes.
Nickerson.
Yes.
Anthony Phillips.
Yes.
Henderson.
C.
The motion passes. Roll call on the resolution.
Nickerson.
Yes.
Prohl.
Yes.
Preston.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Farrow.
Yes.
Henderson.
Yes.
Greg Phillips.
Yes.
Payne.
Yes.
Anthony Phillips.
Yes.
That resolution passes. Are there any additional items that need to be added or brought up at this time? If not, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? By Ms. Henderson, seconded by Ms. Nickerson. Roll call on that motion.
Greg Phillips.
Yes.
Henderson.
Yes.
Payne.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Preston.
Yes.
Farrow.
Yes.
Nickerson.
Yes.
Prohl.
Yes.
Anthony Phillips.
Yes.
We are adjourned. Have a wonderful evening.